Hi guys, so welcome back to my YouTube channel where we are learning Python for data science, and today we are going to be talking about return values. In our past videos we have used the return statement, but now we're going to be talking about it. What is it? In the past we have also used print statements, so now we're going to talk about why we are using return values. So as usual, we're going to have our documentation cell and we're going to have our code cell. So here in our documentation cell, we're going to talk about what return values are. And I like to look at it like an intuition, right? So the intuition here is a function has an expected output. So here a return value is, the intuition is an expected value. Right. So every function has a defined task, and that task has an expected value, something that it returns, right? So what we have as a return value simply means a channel is a channel via which a function sends data back, right? So it's a channel via which a function sends data back. So a function is sending data back to the program, right? From the program, which, it ran a function and then it's returning back to the program, right? So that's basically what a return value is. Now, return values also allows a function to store, its outputs as a variable. So store a function's a function's output as a variable. So that's basically why you will see that return values are there, right? And also one final part before we write code, it's a control flow. It also serves as a control flow, the control flow for the function, right? So an expected value is what the return value, that return statement helps us to do. It's a channel through which a function sends data back, and you can use it to store a function's output as a variable, and then it serves as a control flow for the function. So let's explain this now in code. Now that we get a sense of what we're talking about, let's talk about it this way. So a simple way I'm going to look at it, I'm going to look at it like basic arithmetics. Now, we normally would ask ourselves, what is the area of a rectangle? And the area of a rectangle is the length times its width. So we're going to define a function and we're going to call this area underscore rectangle. Right now, of course, it's going to take two parameters, or of course, it's going to have two parameters, which is the length and it's going to have the width. So that's what it is here. And so remember that these two will end up being the arguments we pass into it when we make a function call, right? Then the next thing we're going to do is we are now going to create a variable, and we'll call this variable area. And inside of that variable, we're going to have length times the width. So that's what it is. Now we introduce our return statement, right? So with this return statement, we're going to have a return value, and then the return value is going to be area. So you see what happens here. There's an expected value, which is from here. There is a channel for which a function sends that data back. We're using it through this return statement, and a return value or return statement gets us to store the function's output as a variable. You can see we did it over here, and now it's giving us a control flow for this whole of this function. So I run this, and then over here I'm going to now do my function call. So I have to just, let me put this here. So here's the function call, and remember, a function call is going to look at the parameters we have here. So here I'm just going to create, I'll call this area, and area rectangle our arguments is it's going to take two arguments, the length, and so let's assume the length is 10 and the width is 15. Let's say 15 centimeters and 10 centimeters, something like that. And with this, we are actually going to, make our call, right? And then we can now print the output. So this is what it is. So the area of a rectangle that has 10 centimeters length, 15 centimeters width is 150, right? So again, the idea is to talk about the return value or the return statement that we've used in functions previously. You can see it over here. Now we're now doing it somewhat of a deep dive. So in our documentation, let me put this here, right? A return value or that return statement, gives us an expected value, like the expected value for our function, right? And it's a channel through which a function sends data back to the program that we're working with. It's also an opportunity to store a function output as a variable, and it also helps as a control flow for our function, and we have this here. So whenever you see a return statement, understand that there's a return value and there's something it's supposed to do. Again, like, subscribe, share for anyone learning data science one object at a time.